What is up, everyone listening? Happy Friday, or whichever day you are listening to. I hope you're having a great day. I hope you're having a great week. As I'm recording, it is March 1st, 2024. We are just past the leap year day. I love the leap year day. It's the free day every 4 years. Makes February a much more worthwhile month. But we are in March, and as we're speaking right here, it is episode number 4 of the Mind Body Revamp Podcast, where I'm going to be talking about what food should we eat. That is a question that comes up everywhere. There's so many foods out there. The food supply has only grown in the last 100 years, and people, with all the advice we get more confused about what foods they should eat. So that's what we're going to talk about here today. So let's buckle up and let's go through it. In this episode, I'll basically give you a little rundown about what foods are for. I'll give you some of my own experience. We always want to be thinking about, like, what's even the purpose of eating in the first place? What food should we focus on? What am I talking about when I say eat all food groups? I'm also going to talk about other things like, should we be counting macros? Should we be applying willpower to food decisions? And of course, fitting foods with your life. I'll end on that note. Anyways, let's get to it. I think the most important foundation when it comes to nutrition is just understanding what food is for. Now, the reason why I say it is because we tend to take this for granted. We eat all the time. Obviously, it's a biological need. And sometimes in the midst of all the noise about food and all the things that people say about food and all the sort of cultural ties that food has, we tend to lose sight of what food is actually for. And I think it's important for us to all kind of come back to center and realize that food is for energy. Food is for fuel. Basically, the reason why food is a biological need is because we have to burn it off for energy. We have to maintain our body structure. We have to basically be able to adapt. And that is what I always tell people, and that's really the mentality that I've been able to take on that has helped me the most, is that food and nutrition is about the right kind of adaptation for the right kind of life that you're living. That is what has helped me the most. This is what I've conveyed to the most people that I've seen help others as well, is understanding that when we're burning off energy, we need to restore that energy, and we need to be primed to burn the energy off again. When we look at our ancestors from the way back when, millennia ago, human life has been around for about 55,000 to 60,000 years now. Obviously, we're in 2024, but you look at the ancient humans, or our ancestors, they hunted for food, they got the food, they ate the food, they recovered, but they had to be ready to hunt again. And we today, obviously we live in a much different world than just being hunters and gatherers, but our body isn't much different. We have to be thinking about, how can I eat to recover from what I did, exercise or not? Because keep in mind, we put energy into other things in our life, like work, social life and other things. But also keep in mind that even as I say that energy and fuel should be the most prioritized thing when it comes to nutrition, I don't want to downplay any sort of cultural or enjoyment aspects of food. I really want to make sure that, for me, sometimes I'll eat something just because I enjoy it. Whether it's just popcorn at the basketball game. I went to the Toyota Center last week, saw the Suns game, it was fun. But whether it's that, or whether it's just, you're with friends and you just want to have a good time, there should be absolutely no issue with eating for enjoyment. But basically, when I talk about what food's for, we got to make sure that over the long term, and obviously that means that, there might be days where our energy balance isn't right, or fueling for exercise just doesn't come. I mean, we're not perfect. We're not meant to be human calculators when it comes to food. I mean, I think it is very important to listen to our bodies. Even if you do calculate macros, and even if you do track macros, I think it is important to listen to your body. It is important to eat for energy balance. And making sure, what I mean by energy balance is this. If we need to build mass, if that's the adaptation that we're looking for, we obviously need to eat in a way that's going to allow us to build mass, and specifically muscle mass. I'll talk more about that later, probably in greater depth in another episode. But on that note, there's other things in the body that have to be restored too, like bone density. There's certain micronutrients that are very important to bone density. There's also micronutrients that are very important to, be able to, sort of maintain function, like magnesium. The magnesium's critical for a lot of functions. And basically, we need to keep all these things in mind, that it's not just about macronutrients, it's about micronutrients too. We want to have that balance and gravitate towards foods that are going to give us all those macro and micronutrients for our needs. With that being said, obviously people ask all the time, what kind of food should I eat? And let me get into that. And my biggest point of emphasis, because I always like to keep things as simple as possible, is to eat all food groups. In 2016, I read a book by Matt Fitzgerald called Running Weights. And, it kind of does talk a lot about nutrition. And basically, today, I don't agree with certain concepts in that book, but the biggest concept that has endured for me is this, I don't know exactly what he called it, but this is how it was. It basically said fruits, vegetables, whole grains, low-fat dairy, meats, and nuts and seeds. So he basically outlined all these food groups, and basically this was called a food, I think it was called the food balance score. Again, I can't remember the name for this, but basically what you would do is if you ate a serving of each of these food groups, you would be marked off for one. And for fruits, in vegetables, I think you can be marked off for as many as 4 servings. So if you have 2 apples, a banana, and a pear, that's 4 servings of fruit. Or if you have about a spinach, a few tomatoes, and whatever else, onions, mushrooms, whatever other vegetables you like, you can gain up to 4 servings of veggies. And I think it was 3 servings of grains, 3 servings of meats, 2 servings of low-fat dairy, like a yogurt or a cup of milk, and I think it was 2 servings of nuts and seeds, so a tablespoon of peanut butter, or if you like almonds, But this is what I love about it, is that this is something that encourages balance. And I can actually post this resource online, or if you DM me, I can definitely send this over to you. And this is actually something I probably should have posted by now, because it's so integral to my philosophy. But this kind of framework is something I read in this book that over 8 years has endured with me. It was literally almost 8 years ago that I read this book. And this thing about eating all food groups and having this balance is something that, again, it still guides me today, and other people that I work with and other people I talk to. And this fact that, every food group has different and complementary value to function. So fruits, for example, are critical to getting the essential carbs that we need. And keep in mind, I know people out here love to say that carbs are bad. No. That's the main fuel source. That is the most readily available fuel source. And if you're not eating enough carbs, well, your body's got to burn something to energy, or it's got to convert something into glucose or into carbs in order to burn off for energy. And you know what it's going to convert? It's going to convert muscle mass. It's going to convert proteins and amino acids. You don't want to be there, especially if you want to build muscle. I mean, if you want to lose weight, yeah, you're going to lose weight if you eat less carbs and burn off protein, because you're just going to lose muscle mass. But that's why everyone loves these low carb, not everyone, but a lot of people love these low carb diets, because yeah, it does help you lose weight. And I get it, obviously eating too much carbs is a reason why certain people get into unhealthy patterns, and particularly unhealthy weights. But keep in mind that people have eaten fruits from the ground for tens of thousands of years. Our body is designed to digest apples and bananas and oranges, and I know some of these fruits, grapes as well, all these fruits that grow from plants. Humans are designed to eat those, and those are tremendous sorts of carbohydrates. You eat fruits, 4 fruits a day, doesn't matter how you do it, 4 fruits a day, that's easily 100 grams of carbs. That is great energy for workouts, especially if you do workouts early in the morning. So that's what I got to say about fruits. When it comes to vegetables, we want to make sure that we get the micronutrients. I already talked about micronutrients earlier. Things like, we talk about like iron, selenium. Again, this is a huge conversation. This is one of those things that we can go on for hours talking about micronutrients and its importance. But understand that things like tomatoes and spinach, and I won't say so much lettuce because lettuce really kind of doesn't have so much density of nutrients in it, but like mushrooms and onions and cucumbers, lots of great micronutrients in those. So definitely get about 3 to 4 servings a day. This can be a whole nother episode about what kind of micronutrients are available in these things and why they're important to have vegetables. But keep in mind, just like I said with fruits, vegetables grow from plants. They're critical whole foods for all of us. Then we got whole grains. Whole grains is a big source of fiber. Fiber is critical for digestion. Also a great source of carbohydrates as well. Obviously, you don't want to have too much fiber. That can really mess with you. But smooth digestion and fiber work very well together. Whole grains can be anything from rolled oats, especially the sugar-free rolled oats, and obviously, whole grain breads. All types of breads are different. I know obviously white bread is going to be a little bit more starchy and have less fiber in it. I mean, those have a time and place too, but finding the kinds of breads that do have that kind of fiber that we're looking for is a great source of again, carbohydrates, and also a great source of fiber, and among other things too. And we want to make sure that we get these grains in significant quantity. Again, my biggest source is whole wheat bread. I do have a loaf of bread in the car usually. I know people think I'm crazy for it. Y'all can think I'm crazy for it, but I think it's important, just whenever you can, get those whole grains in there. And unsaturated fats, basically the importance of fats in the body structure is to make sure that the outline of the cell stays solid. To be short, I don't want to make this a biology lesson too much, but basically our cells are outlined by a semi-permeable membrane. What that means is that some things can flow through it and some things cannot, and obviously that maintains the integrity of our cells. So basically, to maintain the functioning and integrity of our cells and the structure of our cells, we want to make sure that we are getting enough unsaturated fats. Those can be things like peanuts and almonds and lots of sources of unsaturated fats. I know there's some sources of unsaturated fats that tend to have sugar in it, like mayo. But again, all these things have a time and place, and it's just one of those things that you want to make sure that we're really thinking about the foods that we're eating in terms of the nutrients that they're providing. And with that, another source is dairy. So dairy is a big protein source as well, alongside meats. I'll kind of talk about dairy and meats together. Again, these are animal products, and these are one of those things that people like different kinds of sources, different kind of yogurts. So some yogurts have sugar, some yogurts don't. We're also talking about milk. Again, some milks have greater amounts of fats than others. It's mostly desirable to have lower fat milks, but again, whole milks also have some micronutrients. So again, I don't want to kind of tear down any of the whole milks just because they don't have fat in it, because they have a lot of fat in it, because they do actually have micronutrients. And actually the skim milks, they tend to have less micronutrients. It's kind of like the same difference between eggs and egg whites. So egg whites do have some saturated fats in it, but egg whites don't. But at the same time, eggs have a lot of micronutrients that are key. Egg whites don't. So egg whites is basically all protein, which that's why a lot of people love egg whites. A lot of people recommend egg whites, but same time, I think it's good to have a combination of both. We want to have whole eggs. We want to have those micronutrients that are there alongside, we do need fats again, and obviously protein is in the eggs as well. And again, just don't believe everything you hear about the effect on cholesterol, because cholesterol is a whole different thing. But anyways, that's kind of a glimpse of the different kinds of food groups that we want to make sure that we are deliberate about getting into our everyday life. And one thing I have to say, and obviously about desserts and other kinds of things, I know there's the big saying about there, eat in moderation, which again, I can very much agree with. I think it is important that if we have foods that we particularly enjoy, that we're getting those in, and especially getting those in alongside all the essential nutrients that we need to basically grow and adapt and be ready for workouts, be ready for everyday life, to be able to sleep well and everything else. So I think it is important to make sure that we are, getting those in as, I don't want to exactly say as we please, because I know for some people as you please is like, binging on 3 or 4 cookies. But it's like one of those things where we don't want to spend too much of our willpower on food, because if we're thinking about our purpose being that we want to have food for energy, spending willpower on food drains energy, and we absolutely don't want that. So again, this is taking a holistic approach to this question of what should I eat. Yeah, definitely eat things that are pleasurable, eat things that your family enjoys, but also let's make sure that we're getting the right nutrients in alongside that. And I think it's that abundance mentality that tends to make a big difference for a lot of people. It makes a difference for me. I know when I was in college, I know I didn't eat a lot of pleasurable foods, and I think obviously in that case too, given how much I ran, I didn't think I ate enough carbs either. Now that I look at it, having learned a lot about nutrition, worked with a nutrition coach after college, and started to study my own things, and got obviously before the NASM, CPT, CPT, and then the Certified Nutrition Certification, I had to basically do some experiments, see what worked for me. And I kind of found that, look, if I follow this framework, again, this framework that I first saw in 2016 of eating all food groups and balancing them out, then basically that energy is going to be there, that facilitative and positive adaptation from workouts and training and life is going to be there, and that's the outcome we got to go for. And again, there's so much nutrition out there. There's so much people saying this food is good, this food is bad. It gets so confusing. And I know even some of these top researchers and experts are going to tell you what is the downside of eating tomatoes. And I get it. It's these people's life work, and I don't want to, bring them down or anything. But I basically tell people we want to understand the value of every single food group, including the brownies, including the cakes. And understand that food has to fit in with your life. Now, we have to know across different situations what's available and what's not, especially, a lot of people have jobs where they have a lunch hour. We got to know, if you don't pack your own food, kind of know what's available, know what kind of food you need to get, what kind of grocery stores are around, or if Starbucks is around or whatnot. So I do think it's important that, alongside understanding what to eat, that we're making sure that we're making plans ahead of time to fit food in with our life. I think that's critical as well. And that's one thing that I work with people on nutrition planning and understanding just getting your mind conditioned to see the right foods as they're there. Because again, we, in our minds, we always filter out what we think is important, and it's important that we are making sure that if we know what foods we need to eat, we know where to find it and how we're going to find it. I know it's not always predictable. I know some people travel a lot, but whenever it can be predictable, we want to take control of these situations. I got a whole guide on food planning and nutrition planning, free guide. DM me or comment here if you want that. But anyways, that's going to wrap it up for today. We're getting close to 19 minutes. So again, just to summarize what we talked about, eat all food groups, eat for energy, eat for pleasure. Don't use too much willpower with it. Just let yourself flow with it, and just understand you got to eat food 3 to 5 times a day for the rest of your life. You might as well make it something that's going to help you out and work for the better. Anyways, there will be more episodes on nutrition. Every 3 episodes will be about nutrition. So basically, again, in this podcast, we talk about workouts, mental skills, and nutrition. So every 3 episodes, we'll have another topic on nutrition. We have a lot to build on, but I felt like this is a critical foundation. And every time I talk with people about nutrition, I always come to this foundation that we talk about, having balance in the food groups, making sure that we are able to simply, get all the adaptation that we need. Anyways, thank you for listening. It was a pleasure having you. Let me know if there's anything I can help you with or any questions I can answer for you, and I'll see you in the next episode.